You're listening to the War Room with Kate and Crash. The battle begins in
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger, and yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent.
Is it a coincidence that we're launching on D-Day? Well, I've always believed there's no coincidences, but it was just a happy coincidence, as we'll be dropping new episodes every Thursday and Sunday. On this day, in 1944, the men that were and the women who supported and cared for those men are the reason we sit here today. Free people, strong people, proud people. Everything occurring in global politics today, especially what is the equivalent to an enemy invasion, more subtle than the attack on Pearl Harbor, but ultimately more devastating, would break the hearts of each and every one of them. We, the patriots of this nation, and the country-honoring citizens around the world, are tasked with preventing that heartbreak. We are the last line of defense against the destruction of the world they sacrificed to give us all, and we will not fail them. Welcome to the War Room. Today is Thursday, June 6th, 2019, and I'm your host, this intellectual Kate Taylor, call sign Fierce Kitty.
And I am your host, Christopher John Taylor, call sign Crash. This show, as its hosts, are in no way politically correct. If you're easily offended by stereotypical truth, then stick around and toughen up, you pansy.
All right. Well, of course, we're going to focus on political happenings in the upcoming election. This is also a show about hope and the other issues and events that affect us as citizens, parents, people. It matters not what generation you come from, what color your skin, or who you call family. If you want to contribute and make this nation we are blessed to live in the greatest it's ever been, then you have found a place here. I cannot overstate that contemporary life is war. In times of national peace, there are other fronts and theaters that we must engage upon and within from the moment we wake to the moment we lay our free heads on the pillow at night. We're here to disseminate truth, offer the benefit of our unique half-century of existence, and be the common sense rally point for the battles that lay ahead for us all. Stay tuned to the end of the show for some links to some super interesting stuff. Now, let's get on with the best part of the show.
Best part of the show, yeah.
That's right. So we did a poll last week. We asked what people were talking about, what they were most concerned about last weekend. And by 50%, the answer was the issues going on with the coup and the deep state.
Yeah.
So in case you weren't aware, for those that weren't aware, I don't know how, but some might not be aware, we are patriots. We took the 3% oath on July 4th, 2018, And our fealty to that oath will die with us.
This topic actually took 50% of the poll that we did on Twitter last week. Understandably so. What we have always sensed and know now is the biggest betrayal of the American people in the history of, well, U.S. history. Now, if it truly is the NWO, as we suspect, then the betrayal doesn't end at our sovereign borders.
Right.
Yeah.
So the New World Order, if it is as deep and as unimaginable as has been said.
Like I like to say, ridiculously far-reaching.
Right, ridiculously far-reaching, like unimaginable.
Yeah.
I think I read where it kind of started, like super far back, like 20s back.
Super back, yeah.
Like really back, like when they were Charlestoning and stuff, when it really took hold in the country.
And interestingly enough, the first Muslims came to this country in 1929.
Right, yes. We're going to get into that in our second segment because that was the second highest topic, was the Islamic invasion.
Right, you are.
And we're definitely going to talk about that because everybody knows how I feel about that. So, yeah, so I understand, and I'm very glad that this was the most concerning topic because it is very concerning, this whole deep state thing. We can't trust our own government. We can't trust anything we thought we knew. And so I can absolutely correlate that with just life experience, full stop, because there always comes a point, you're a child, you're taught by things from your parents and your teachers and whatever your family traditions and ideologies are. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of grow up and you start, exploring other ideologies and other ways that your friends' families live and different things. And you realize that, not everything you thought you knew was actually the case, And because as parents, we also do have to kind of keep a certain level, a certain cap on the things that we allow our children to know and understand at a certain age to kind of protect them from that. So.
Okay, well, there's...
Like Santa, there's that too.
There's all of that. Well, Santa is the perpetuation of what?
Of innocence to me. But let's not get into your negativity about Santa.
Well, it's not so much negativity. I mean, yes, factoid. I was 11 years old when I realized that everything that the government was telling me wasn't real.
Okay, well, there is that. But you are a weird bird anyway.
Okay, well, weird birds... Yeah, okay.
That is true. You are a weird bird.
Great. But the point I'm trying to make is that I think it's safe to make the statement that this country has been aware that their politicians are liars since, well, pretty much day one.
Right. Well, we know that politicians are liars, and we know that they lie to get our votes, and we know that they do these things. But this, and I will say this, so... If you understand that if to me, there's only two choices here. Either everything that Q says and the coup and the deep state and the whole entire thing, the thing that, Kennedy talked about that I believe he was killed for, because he was about to reveal all that. If it's either true, completely true, or none of it is true. It's either one or the other. I don't think there's any middle ground. I don't think, Obama and Hillary are guilty but 3 administrations ago, they were cool. And, I don't buy that for 1 second whatsoever. No. There's too much global intertwining. It all begins where? At the Rothschilds, hundreds of years ago, and the European financial control of the entire world, and then you throw Soros into the mix, who well documented that he's got one mission, and that's to destroy America, and all of this, and like Q says, and I don't want to be a Q, conspiracy theorist on this show, because it's not that I don't believe in Q. I do. I believe things that I won't talk about because I don't want to talk about it, but I absolutely do. So don't get me wrong. I mean, future does prove past, and I have had stuff proven to me beyond my wildest imaginings. Oh, speaking of breaking news, we should have a breaking news. Anyway, so anybody remembers on June 3rd, there was a drop, and it was like boom, boom, boom. And then it said dark to light, and then it said blackout necessary. I think that was the term. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm trying to remember. And then LAX today, power surges causing blackouts. And they kind of minimized it in what I had seen on the news before we went on the air, but absolutely, LAX kind of went dark, and there were planes grounded, and it messed up. Bing! It messed up flights and things like that for quite a while. So that's just yet another one. I mean, he said it on June 3rd and June 5th it happened, and there you go. So again, future proves past, and I definitely believe in all that kind of thing. Now I kind of forgot my point because of the guitar strum.
Well,
what was my point?
You don't want to be a
right, thank you.
Conspiracy nut
I
and
appreciate
the reptilians and all the rest of it.
See, that's why I married him. But I absolutely do believe it. And again, it goes to that all or nothing kind of mentality thing too, which I understand is really frightening. And it's really, this is how, this is how they've kept us all in the dark for so very long because, it's so outrageous, right? But it is truly frightening I read something once where if the government comes out with a scientific technology, something that they say, well, now we can do this, that they've already been doing it for 20 years and they're just letting us know now.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's kind of that whole thing. But I think I was going to, Kennedy and all that kind of stuff and all the things that have occurred. We can absolutely kind of prove that when you look back over history.
Sure.
If you just do even the briefest amount, and it is overwhelming and it is mind-blowing. And now, if you're a believer, which I suspect almost everybody listening to this show is, then you understand that we have some serious issues here, breaches in national security and actual dangers to the citizens of this country. False flags everywhere Podesta goes, people die several days later. It's just not a coincidence anymore.
Absolutely, yeah.
That kind of thing. And
well, I mean, this is the whole thing. When you started rattling off all these Q drops to me last year, I was like, time to get the Prozac and put you in a padded room because the stuff that you are saying,
right?
It's just, sorry, human beings aren't that smart,
and they're not that evil.
And for
I
you
had an issue
to
with the
carry
evil part.
on a plan over hundreds of years,
right?
With each new generation of these evil masterminds that you're birthing into the plan are just as smart as you, it would almost be impossible to carry off. But then you started tracing back and showing me, here, this thing happened. That's why. Oh, here, this thing happened. Right. That's why. All of a sudden, you opened my mind because there's just too many things for it not to be.
Right, exactly.
Now, the crazy emotional Democrat liberals or whatever,
well, it's funny
they
you should
can't see it.
mention that because I was just about to bring that up because to me, the thing that stopped me in my tracks was if you just go back 20 years and look at, the kids and the teenagers of the time and now look at the kids and the teenagers of today, just, one generation removed.
Yeah.
It's almost black and white. It's almost a complete 180 degree, switch.
I would say it's almost 100% dumbing down. It's like they've put the fast forward on stupid in the gene pool. I don't know. I think a lot of it has got to do with the internet.
It absolutely does. I think it's given so much power. I think everybody thinks that, if they have a username, they have validity and they have an opinion. And they're
it started the thing that separated MySpace and Facebook was Facebook came out with the like page.
Right.
Oh, and you could have people like you.
Right.
That's important.
Right. Exactly.
And then, of course, what happens? Twitter comes along and they're like, oh, well, we'll verify you.
Oh gosh.
You'll be a real person.
Right. Exactly.
And, of course, that got ate up by everybody. Oh, he's verified.
Right. Well, that just, it created a monster, a self-perpetuating monster.
Sure. And now you see with platform, what was it, just this last week, there's like 6 new platforms out now.
Right, okay. Well,
right?
At least I'm verified on all of them. But Twitter...
Well, and that's the other thing. Look at that. That kind of goes back to your deep state thing because Facebook and Twitter, everybody's saying, they're the evil Nazis of the deep state. Well, wait a minute. Hold on a second. you couldn't pay them to get verified. There's not a single right conservative out there that I've seen that can go and just go get verified.
Well, no,
It doesn't
actually,
happen.
because let's clarify. Twitter verifies accounts that are of public interest. So you can't just be Joe Yum Yum and get verified. You have to have something.
There's probably a lot of white supremacists out there that are interesting.
Right, but you have to have an entity of public interest. You have to be a media person or a journalist or have some interest to the public at large in that way. So that's why. So that's why you see a lot of bloggers and a lot of podcasters.
I have 90 million people who watch my makeup video, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. All of that sort of thing. And here's the irony, though, because right before Trump won the election in 2016, right? Was it? God, it's late.
2017, yeah.
2017.
Go 2021.
Right. So right before that, I mean, we were still in the air, and I was, you have this inkling, that something's up, and we knew that Trump was going to be the fixer and all that kind of stuff.
Sure,
We
yeah.
were always Trump supporters, but we just at least I didn't have any clue at how, immensely evil Hillary was at that point. So I was still kind of on the fence because, you're a woman and you want to, rep your gender and all that kind of stuff. So, but anyway, the bottom line is I wasn't, the me today. I was still, a moderate mom me, that kind of thing. And I was a kinder, gentler Kate, right? Which is dead now. But anyway, Twitter was on the verge of verifying me. Right? It was literally 48 hours, and they revoked that because when Trump won, I celebrated, and that's when they revoked the verification that they were about to give me.
Well, they were the screaming girl in the green coat there.
Right. So it was infuriating to me because it had taken us so long. We'd have been on the air since 2010. We'd done all these movie premieres and interviewed all these celebrities, and we built what we had built, and we were on the verge of being verified on Twitter and being influencers and all that great stuff.
Yeah.
And then because, I supported Trump, they pulled that. But that's fine. I don't mind. Right?
Yeah, you're not bitter and talking about it
Not at
10
all.
years later. Yeah, no.
Right. But that wasn't even the kicker. The kicker was when I built up an account, just a regular non-verified account with tens of thousands of followers, post that, and then I said something that wasn't even threatening. Now, everybody here listening knows me for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm pretty out there and blatant about how I feel about you if I don't like you.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I wasn't then. I've gotten more so now. Ever since they
started putting the thumb screws to you. That's when
since they banned my account with tens of thousands of followers, that's when I was like, naturally reacted exactly how you'd expect me to react.
Sure.
So, so anyway, but all this goes back to the same thing. Funny about the social media, because if I'm not mistaken, which anybody listening, if I say things and I'm not accurate, then I absolutely want you to let me know, like tweet me, do whatever, because I'm all about, being accurate and doing the research. And, if I'm wrong, I'll say so. That's pretty much the only time. I don't apologize unless I'm wrong. That's what I say.
Right.
So social media was created by the CIA, by the government. And funded by the government, funded by the CIA. And I always say to him, you really think these two goofball college kids built Facebook without any prodding, any input, any other thing, and now all of a sudden social media and platforms and all these kind of things.
Nah, of course, it'd be much beyond him because, I didn't think of Procast in 97.
That's not the same thing, though.
Oh, no, it's much bigger.
Right, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
So...
Okay.
I don't know. Still not with you on that, but
irrelevant. Look, there's a lot of things everybody doesn't know, but you concepted Lionsgate too, and because you were young, you were taken advantage of in that situation. It would have happened the same way with Procast. So you would never have caved. You would never have agreed. You're just not that kind of character. You would have never had... God can only imagine what they put like Zuckerberg and all those people through. And
we don't know, so to speculate on it's just a waste of time.
Well, that is true too. But this is what I suspect. But anyway, this is part of what I suspect. So it goes back to all this thing that all of this stuff is so much more intertwined than anybody has any idea about. But this isn't even the thing I wanted to talk about because it's exactly what I didn't want to talk about.
Right.
What I want to talk about, and the reason that I want everybody here, and I want us to have this audible place to discuss this kind of stuff, because in 280 characters, it's really tough. And social media, you know, a lot of things get misconstrued, and
Right.
you know, it's much better to actually have that human kind of interaction and connection. It's the frustration, because there are things that we utterly and absolutely know that, you know, the liberals can deny until they're blue in the butthole, but we know that Obama and Hillary are guilty. We know Brennan's guilty. We know the FBI is complicit.
We've known for years. Yep.
Right, exactly. We know all these things. And I see my compatriots on Twitter, you know, very frustrated and like, where's the arrests? And, you know, go and get Mo. And I even wrote a song, you know, going down to get Mo. You remember?
Yeah, and they're
So-
absolutely right. And
Right.
it's no different than what I've been saying for
Okay.
years.
Right, because my husband's exactly the same way. And this is the common perception. And it's not that I wake up every day and don't want to see front page news of them, you know, in handcuffs. I want them to have the CNN at 4 a.m. and take Hillary out in her nightgown, even though that would be just horrible, you know, because nobody can unsee that. I still want to see that.
Running for Congress was never
that's
in
another
the
one.
plan.
Yeah,
We're very
never
proud
in
of
the
it,
plan.
and that's really
Okay.
Yes. Trump's very proud of it. But I share in that frustration. But like I say to him, we have to understand that there is a process and that we are only getting one bite at this apple, just one. So if we look at the stratagems, you know, if we look at the art of war and that kind of thing and why things have to be done in the way they have to be done, we have to really nail down all the little people. You know, we have to make sure that there is no out for these people when the time comes and we make this public at all. Like there can absolutely be none.
I get where you're coming from, but the way I see it, it's pretty much the exact opposite. This whole Q thing to me seems like the next generation in entertainment. This is the next Game of Thrones.
That's why the
This is
maestro
somebody-
says enjoy the show.
This is somebody writing this stuff and doing all this stuff. You stop and think about it. It is common public knowledge anywhere you go in this country. All the crap that Hillary did, all the crap that Obama did, Comey, Lisa Page. You mention anybody in the deep state, everybody knows what they've done. So when you get to that point, you sit there and tell me, well, you know, we got to do this right, and we got to cross our T's and dot our I's. Do you know Nancy Pelosi said the exact same thing today at a press conference about Donald Trump's impeachment. Well, we got to take our time. We got to go through court. We got to.
They're just trying to keep the impeachment narrative alive to deflect from the truths that are coming out. But let me just present this.
Okay.
Everything that we know, let's picture in our minds everything that we know.
Mm-hmm.
And we know nothing. We know the tip of the iceberg when you consider two factors. One, just the U.S. government alone. Just the U.S. government alone. And the fact that they have the capability to keep things secret for decades upon decades upon decades.
And then
right?
some. Yeah.
Right. And now let's take that to a global level where you have the heads of all the most important states, you know, in this contract to, you know, be a handful of people that are in control of everything and keep the entire population in the dark.
I.e. the UN and NATO, yeah.
Oh, don't even get me started on UN and NATO. We'll talk about that one day, too. But, so there has to be, and I know there is, and there has to be so much more that we don't know. So from our limited perspective, we're not in, you know, the Oval. We're not, to me, Trump started planning this at least a year or more before he decided to run.
I would say a decade.
Well,
yeah.
we do have that theory. You know, we have that theory that this has been a very long-running plan of his because we've seen him talk about this 30 years ago, you know, and we know about his friendships with JFK Jr. and stuff. So, you know what? Look, I don't know if he's alive or not. Don't really care. The point of the matter is if my best friend's father was assassinated by an evil government, I'm sure that would be somewhere on my agenda to get justice for that before I died, whether that best friend was alive or not, wouldn't you? I mean, that's what friends do, right? And it wasn't just anybody's dad. It wasn't like, Joe down the block's dad was killed in a drive-by. It was the best president of the United States, the one that was going to...
Okay, but for that assumption to happen, then JFK Sr. must have gone to his son when he was, 4? And said, son,
no.
if I turn up dead, it's the U.S. government.
No. But he was also in the house. And who knows what drunk family members spewed around him and things. This is exactly proving my point about what we don't know. Because we're not there. And the difference between us and them is we don't presume to know everything and generalize and do all those things that they do. That's what makes us different than them. It's also their weakness and our strength because we don't do that. Because it makes them do what? Knee-jerky, crazy stuff in reaction, panic, and do all that sort of thing that we don't do.
But all that aside, Hillary made another $250,000 talking for an hour today.
Okay, you see it as that, and I see that as just money that's going to go into the Treasury when we seize it all. So what?
That's what you say to help yourself sleep at night.
No,
sure.
I don't need help sleeping at night. Because, look, ultimately, one way or another, the truth's going to come out. And it's more about what they won't have anymore. And for all of these families, it'll be the legacy that they've spent their entire existence building. That will not go down in history in the way that they thought it would, will not be left to their, subsequent generations in the way they thought they would. And to me, that's justice.
If it happens, yes.
So the point anyway is I understand the frustration, and it is hard, especially when you have these yum-yums on there, and they say things, and, what we know isn't the same as saying, here, look at this. So shut up. And that's what we want to be able to do.
Well, even if you had that, though, what do you think they would say?
Understood. Fair enough. But that's what I'm saying. And I was pretty shocked today on Twitter. In fact, I believed it was fake news at first, but CNN actually reported that the majority of Americans think Trump's going to get reelected.
Sure, yeah.
And I was really surprised that, Clown News Network actually put that out.
Absolutely staggered, yes.
I honestly thought it was fake news for a minute. So, but, it's true. And how anybody...
Well, because, you got the
think.
New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and countless other news outlets that have been putting out consistently over, specifically more often in the last 6 months, about Donald Trump's performance record. And they've been doing polls, random polls through their magazine subscribers or what have you, specifically asking how is Donald Trump doing on the economy? How is Donald Trump doing? All of the various segments of the actual work of the office.
Right.
They've been polling on, and he's come back 72%. Now, people are in favor. Well, you look 72%. It's not leaving a whole lot of room for the crazies. And that's the other thing I want to say here is that there's not as many crazy libs as you think there is. They put it out on social media like there's millions of them. Oh, right,
yeah, absolutely.
All across the country.
I
We're
agree with
ready.
that.
2020, we're taking it back. Right? These guys can't take a bag of groceries from the store to their house, and they're going to take right. So
right, agreed.
Ignore the hype, I guess, is what I'm saying, because the numbers just don't add up.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, if you take the 72% that are in favor of him, and then you take the however many percent of illegal voting going on, he's going to win by 120%. Either way you do the math, it's okay. Don't worry.
I think what staggers me the most about the opposition here is they claim to be Americans. I'm doing my air quotes here now. And yet they don't understand the simple argument that you don't put a non-American citizen, legal, otherwise, in process, whatever the case may be, over a citizen that was born here, lived here, works, pays into the system. That just staggers me.
Well, if I could go back to the Nancy Pelosi press conference I saw today, and I'm going back to this again because...
Well, it's all part of it. She's so far in, it's not even funny.
No. Okay, you know what? Pelosi and Schumer, I'll give you the skinny on them. Pelosi and Schumer are just so old. they don't care anymore.
Yeah, but again, did you?
She's having a stroke while she's trying to give her press conference today.
I agree.
Talking about impeach. Right? Schumer is just an angry old man running around like, when do I retire?
He's lurch.
He doesn't even care. These people don't care.
I disagree. They don't care because, again, it's not about them. And as evil as they are, they still care about their own. And it's what they are not going to be able to leave behind for them. Not materially and not in terms of reputation, not in terms... What do I always say? When we want to do things and advance and provide, security and things like that, it's for the opportunity that it gives our children. It's not so much about, who has, a nicer car in the driveway or a bigger house. It's what that kind of stuff provides, if you build a reputation in the community, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So to me, ultimate justice would be taking that away from all of them. Yeah, it's going to be great to see them in bracelets and, marching in the perp walk and doing all that kind of stuff. But that's fleeting. And that's just the final point I want to make. Because normally we'd go to a commercial break here, but we're putting this out commercial free today. But it's the long game. It's really... that immediate gratification is something that we really have to kind of stifle for now, because it's also dangerous to the mission, I guess. Because like I said, if we don't square away all the little guys that could be those loose ends, and then we grab the big guy, and they know things that our guys don't know, and there's so much on both sides that none of us know, our hurry would be our doom. We can't make the same mistakes that they do. And we just have to kind of be patient and,
Okay, but it's been years. I'm just going to leave this parting thought. It's been years. And you remember the movie Donnie Brasco?
Yes.
He not only infiltrated the mob, got to the top of the mob, did the whole RICO case, had them all sent away. He did that in the same period of time.
Okay, you're talking about one little crew.
Okay,
one little crew. We're not talking about the global new world order here.
Right? All right.
So, yes.
Okay.
Oh, and just one little thing I do want to mention, since we're not really on a time limit or anything today.
Oh, here we go. Before the show, she's like, we have to stick to this format, damn it. Okay. We'll run into the after show time. There you go.
Art can only imitate life. Life doesn't imitate art. Art imitates life. So whatever you've seen has been done before. It's got a grain of truth in it.
Sure.
So the most outrageous, suspense films and, Illuminati stuff and all that other kind of stuff, it's based in some reality somewhere.
Sure.
It's been implanted somewhere before.
At some level, but maybe not as extreme as Hollywood makes it.
Right, exactly.
That's all I'm saying.
Dramatic license. We all know what that's like, especially us. But yes, so it is absolutely plausible. And yes, trust the plan. We're on the right track. And just, be patient. We have to support each other through this. We absolutely need to do that. And because we won't, as that famous quote says, we won't be destroyed from without. We'll be destroyed from within. And that leads me into my next segment.
And with that, newsflash, Muslims invade McDonald's.
Yeah, they have. Absolutely, they have. Dearbornistan, yes. And that's where we're going to start. So
okay, actually, back you the truck up once.
Okay.
I'm gonna do the beep, beep, beep thing right here.
Okay. Beep, beep.
I've said this before.
Okay.
At other stations. I will say this again right here and now to start off this whole conversation, because I think what I'm about to say is the most important question that the Muslim community in America has to answer. And you know what? None of them will answer it.
Okay.
Here we go.
Uh-huh.
You're a Muslim. You're in the desert. You've got your AK-47. You've got your camel. You've got your goat.
So you're a radical.
A radical and a rich Muslim, okay? Don't buy the Saudi thing. That's just the movies. That's just, no. You need your goat, your camel, and your AK. That's all you need. Oh, and a video camera to go on the internet to recruit worldwide, because that's how they started. Okay.
Okay. I'm just thinking it sounds like a plan. I'm happy.
The United States of America, the whole Western world, actually, for that matter, any culture that's not Muslim. Or
Right.
Of Islam.
Right.
Any culture that's not of that is shaitan. It's
Right, to them.
absolute,
Right, absolutely.
filthy heathen.
That's
It's
devil in French for those. who
hell
don't
on
know.
earth.
Right.
We have to either turn them Muslim or kill them. That's our mission.
Satan, actually, in French. Right.
Period.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, 1929, as I mentioned earlier in the show, was the first Muslims to land in America.
Yeah, we're going to do some more research. We'll do another show on that because that's important, I think.
You get back to them on that.
I will.
That's the when they first started coming here. And if you look at the numbers, which I have, since 1929 to now, after 9/11,
Right.
2001,
Right.
after that point, there is a spike that increases 30% from pretty much 6-7% up and down, fluctuating over the entire period of time before that.
Right.
All of a sudden, there's this increase of like 30% over that next 10-year span. And now it's increased to 70% per year of the total amount. Like, so in 2010, they have 350,000 come here.
Right.
In 2011, that number jumps another 40%.
Right.
Okay. And it's yearly, and it keeps calculating and stacking. Right now, there's over 3.5 million Muslims in this country.
Okay, that is...
Hold on a sec. 1.5 million of these are military-aged men.
I'm going to venture a little more than that.
Okay. This is just the statistics I've seen.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to
question,
interrupt, but that's because the ones that are coming across the southern border, they're not counting.
No, they're not counting
Because
those.
they're trying to pass
Absolutely.
as
Well,
something
that's a
else.
relatively new development.
Well, is it, though?
Well, who knows?
Our awareness of it is a new development.
Who knows?
Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. My point is we see this huge increase since 2001 of Muslims coming to America
Right.
and Canada. Yeah.
Right, North America, Western civilization. And don't
This
forget
huge
Europe,
migration out through Europe and
'cause
all
of
up
the
into the
hubris
Netherlands. And okay.
post 9/11.
All this thing. Okay. So what do we see that's really happening here? What we see is we see a mass exodus of Syria and Jordan and Libya and Kuwait and you name them. They're all leaving and they're just spreading out across the planet. Now, we're particularly knowing of the numbers and whatnot that's going on here because it's important. We care what the hell is going on. And I'll tell you why. Stop and think about this now. You're no longer a Muslim. Okay? You're a Christian. For our God to tell us, you need to go out and convert everybody to Christianity, and those that do not convert, you must kill. They're evil. They're of Satan. For us now to go out and just make this go live in Kuwait.
Right, well, what happens when one of us goes to a Muslim country?
We get beheaded.
Right.
So are we going to do it? No.
No, well, we wouldn't anyway because
So
that's
Muslims
not what we're
coming to America, coming to North America, coming to Europe, going to the Netherlands, et cetera, expanding all around the world, they are all literally picking up, leaving their homes, and going literally in real life to what they perceive as hell.
Right.
They're against capitalism. They're against women's rights. They're against gays. They're against pretty much everything we stand for in this country. They're against.
Right.
Now they're here. They're openly stating to news agencies that yes, we're going to have Sharia law. Yes, we'll be mayors. We'll do local and state government. We'll get into the
Right.
We're into the Congress already. We'll be president one day.
Right.
We'll institute Sharia law. That'll be our first executive order. That's what they're saying openly.
Right. Exactly.
Nothing. Crickets from the Oval Office on that whole thing. Nothing.
Well,
He's talking about Mexicans all the time.
Okay, I'm going back to my breathe and patience and all this kind of stuff because it's not doing nothing. He has signed an executive order designating the foreign terrorist organizations and any association anyone
Right.
has in this country. And if you read the verbiage of that, and if you actually understand what that means. That means that when the time comes, you have to remember he's got some really seriously big fish to fry here. And this is all happening, concurrently. It's not like, okay, we're going to, go after this one and then consecutively, then we'll go after this one. We have multiple threats. And it reminds me of a meme that I saw. It was a bunch of, I think it was a bunch of Marines, and they're holed up somewhere, and one of them says, "Sir, they're attacking from all sides," or something, or "We're surrounded," and he's like, "Good, we can attack from all sides." So it's kind of very, allegorical to how I see this entire situation, that we have multiple threats coming at us from different sides, and we have this one, not only, forget the threats like, the deep state and the Muslims and the crazy Europeans, we'll get to that, but our own people, for the first time in my lifetime, I voted for Obama the first time. Yep, guilty. But as soon as he lied to me and said he was bringing the troops home and then sent however many more, and that was it. We were finished. That was it. And I began to see him for what he really was.
It was 75,000 more troops, and it was his first 30 days.
Right. So that was it for me. I was done. Fool me once, shame on me, that kind of thing. So, but even then, I didn't disrespect the office of the president.
No.
I didn't disrespect my fellow Americans who were supporting him.
No.
Because I was cognizant of two things. One, his damage was going to be, well, at least that's what I thought at the time. His damage was going to be limited because he is limited to 2 terms, and that's it. And then change is going to come, real change, right? And then, 2, if I'm correct and this guy truly is, a scumbag, then obviously decent Americans are going to see that for themselves at some point. He's going to out himself, and then it's going to be okay, right? So that was my naivete. That was back when I used to be a really good person. And yeah, so this is the kind of thing. And again, it goes back to that whole Trump has this plan before he even decided to run, because things had to be put in place. And he knew he was going to, the most extreme resistance ever possible. I understand it, but I didn't expect it so much from the American people choosing non-Americans over Americans. That's the thing that kind of floored me.
See, now we're going back to this deep state thing again.
Well, it's all connected, isn't it? Because they brought the Muslims
years
here.
ago, we knew all about what Obama did.
Okay, wait, stop. Time out. Hold the phone. I have to say this now, and this is what I'm going to say, and this is what I've always said. Starting in the late 60s, mid to late 60s, feminism, the second wave of feminism, that was a deep state construct. It was a deep state construct. They knew they couldn't get the men to turn on their country, that there was too much patriotism, that there was too much loyalty, too much had gone on. There was no way that was going to happen. So they targeted the women. They got freaking malcontent women to, create this movement that affected all the other dumb, vulnerable women. And this is where it began. Liberalism is a symptom of the disease of feminism, and this is how it began. So, when our men returned from Vietnam, instead of, nurturing them back to health like the women did in World War II and, going back to the home to raise their children and build future generations for this country, as was their duty to do, they usurped them. They took their jobs. They kicked them out of their place in the house. They basically just, been like, oh, well, we're done with you. We don't need you anymore. And that was the beginning of the end of what was, the foundation of what made this country what it was, sure. Right? Okay. So all well and good. The one thing the deep state didn't count on was human nature. So feminism only went so far, and it was this crazy movement for a decade or so. And then in the 80s, women were like, I still want to be married and have a family. And yeah, some of us can be working girls, but, I'd rather be home with my kids. It's our instinct to do that. We're nurturers. We're, builders. This is what we do.
Right.
So they were like, oh, crap, it didn't work, right? So what was the next thing? What else did they have in their arsenal? What other enemies did they have in their arsenal? So since the Iran thing, it was Islam. It's the true natural enemy of there's 1,200 religions on this planet, and Islam is the only one that's a danger to all the rest. So and this is what I would do. If I were them, this is exactly what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I know it's true, because it's what I would do, right? So this is what's been building, since the late 70s and the early 80s and all that went on. This is their next move. And they play long games because they have the resources. They have the network and the infrastructure in place to be able to do that. They jet off and do their thing. It really matters
But it
not
goes
to them.
back to what I say. The people of this country, I think, are too complacent, and
right, because
they're
we can't
too
fathom
involved
that.
in their own personal lives. In 2007, Obama was voted in. In 2009, President Trump, then Donald Trump, businessman, was on YouTube with a video about his birth certificate.
Because he knew. That's why I'm saying he planned this very long ago.
Yeah, but I'm also saying that it was public knowledge. Everybody knew. So now we've got somebody who is not an American.
Okay, well,
in
guess
the Oval
what?
Office.
In 2009, that's when identity politics began.
Right.
Some brilliant strategist on the side of the deep state said, oh, well, you know what? Because you can't. There isn't a commercial or a marketing agency on this planet that could make an American be less patriotic if they're a real American. Sorry. It's not going to happen. Doesn't matter.
Right.
There is no amount of us wanting to be liked or accepted or any of that that's going to make us turn on our country. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
It's, again, one of those things that makes us different from every other country on the planet.
Absolutely.
So, and they knew this. So they had to come up with the identity politic thing. And again, this has been said in, 1984, this is the Animal Farm. This is going back to... God, this was written. I'll get some resources. I'll post some links on the video page tomorrow. So, but this is going back like so far back. It's not even funny that this is how it's going to be, because this is the natural progression of civilizations and when people get in power and it's corrupt and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what occurred. And this is where we're at. Some brilliant strategist in the deep state said, okay, well, you know what? There's nothing we can do that's going to make them less loyal. And even the women are starting to want to go back to the traditional way. And if we have traditional families and we have traditional values and American values in this country and national pride and even an eighth of what it was on September 12th, 2001,
they're never going to break
nobody
it
can
down.
touch us.
No.
Right. So they said, let's make it bad and socially unacceptable to question anybody who's, not white and European and American and all that kind of stuff. We're going to make that really, really bad. So that's where that started. That's why they put Obama in office. That wasn't a result of Obama being in office. He was put there to facilitate that agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked. And then, okay, well, now is the women's chance again because, it went so far and it's only going to go so far because why? We are a meritocracy. So he didn't live up to the title. There was nothing extraordinary. He had the worst presidency in the history of this nation. Full stop. Just did damage. Didn't do anything beneficial, period.
No.
So we recognize that. And even his supporters were like, yeah, dude, you sucked. Just, go away. So then they said, okay, so we'll make it about minority women. We'll get the women again. And then, I don't even think Hillary running was her idea. I really don't. I think she would have been happy to just live off the fat of her Clinton Foundation and, plan Chelsea's wedding and do all that kind of crap because she's been doing this so long. She can't be anything but exhausted.
But if you listen to the deep state stuff, she had no choice because, Soros wanted her in there.
Well, again, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that Hillary is some brilliant mastermind. I'm not at all. I've never said that. I don't believe that for 1 second. I believe... There you go. That's that evil cackling laughter that all villains share. I believe that she got in over her head when she was the wife of the governor of Arkansas. And I'm going to post some links today because I had links sent to me about some murders that ties more into the Clinton death numbers, that. And I also found out today that even her chef was found at the bottom of a river with no apparent cause of death. Just her chef. That's I don't even want to know what happened there. But she just got in over her head, you know. Clinton Bill was into a lot more than women. He was into drugs and he was doing all these other things, and he got in with some really bad people, and they've been their puppets ever since. And that's the way it happens. And they just had the right makeup. They had the American family, so they were able to fool us for so much longer than, say, the Obamas.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So I think this is really what happened. But it all goes back to the Muslim thing here now. So the identity politics with Obama didn't work. Minority women and women's rights didn't work because, again, they failed to count on human nature. And, you know...
Well, and you look at the Democratic lineup for 2020, and it's like they've broken every one of those issues you just mentioned down into a face. There's a Bernie face, there's a Kamala face, there's an Elizabeth
Well, socialism
Warren face.
is new. That's like their ace up their sleeve, their wild card. But we'll get to that. So, now where was I? Which part? Oh, the Muslims, right. Okay, so they failed with the identity politics, and they failed with the women and doing all that because they had not counted on the fact that women, by human nature, the majority of us are going to want to be women. And it doesn't matter. I mean, we don't believe in feminism in the way that the feminists, the radical feminists, I call them the feminists, do. You know, obviously I have a career. Obviously I have children. Obviously I'm a wife and a mother first. Obviously that's my choice. You know, my husband would never tell me, oh, don't go and do this dream, stay home, make me a sandwich. You know, it doesn't work that way. You know, I think that a lot of the feminism stuff started way back the first wave because, you know, there was a lot more arranged marriages. There was a lot more, here's 3 letters and then marry me because, you know, your name is this and my name is that. And
right.
It was bad matches and people were unhappy, granted, right? So I think it was just poor choice, you know, than anything else to do with women's oppression or whatnot. But so I think we're moving. They realize that they're never going to break that, you know, that American values are going to stay American values, and the majority of people are going to be as intact families as much as possible. And that is the fabric of this nation, period, full stop.
Sure, yeah.
Because they raise their kids to respect their country, respect God, respect their families, you know, do the right thing, have integrity.
Pledge allegiance.
My son knows it. He's only 6. He knows it. You know, that kind of thing. So they're doing all these things. And the Muslims, that's been an insidious thing since the 70s, 80s, right? And then, God, 9/11, I can't even think of it still. But then they brought in you know, you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you're a bigot, you're an Islamophobe, and you know how much I hate that. I'm an Islamanobe. And unfortunately, because of social media, I don't think, again, just like feminism couldn't have happened at any other time except post-Vietnam the way it did, I don't think that this would have succeeded at any other time were it not for the level of social media. And social media taps into a place that is both addictive and primal in people. It goes to that human need to feel validated, to feel included, to feel like you belong somewhere and that other people get you, you know, and you get that instant gratification.
But what happened to getting that unity out of your national pride?
Well, because they made it bad to have national pride because now you were a white supremacist.
Now we're a supremacist, right?
And it's funny because it's gotten so ridiculous now. They're so desperate because, you know, this is why I can get up every day and do what I do and go to bed and put my head on the pillow at night, because I know with every fiber of my being that they're going to fail. And that we are not going to allow them to destroy our country. That when push comes to shove, there is just utterly no way we're going to do that. It's just not going to happen. Every one of our loved ones that have come before us that gave us the opportunity to sit where we sit today, we're not going to let them down. We're not going to let their blood and their sacrifice be for nothing. We would never do that. It's just not who we are. So I'm not worried about them winning in any way. It's just the damage in the meantime, what they're doing to these generations now and turning them all around, because unfortunately, you know, numbers stack. So since the 70s and single parent families and all this kind of stuff, there's so many kids out there that don't have what they should have at home to grow up well adjusted, to grow up whole, you know, to be able to withstand the pressure, to have parents say, hey, look, this is how it was. This is how it is. You know, kids, you say things over and over and over again. It goes in. Believe me, it goes in. It stays there. They'll never let you know, but it goes in there and it stays in there. And when they're by themselves out there and they have a decision to make, they're going to revert to their foundation because that's what they know to be true. Because the one thing in life that we can always count on, no matter what, and I've said this before, what's real is what stays. And that's the only thing you need to know in life. And all of these other things are fleeting. And the one thing that has stayed has been our commitment to this country, our commitment to our families, our commitment to our faith and our communities. And that's never going to go away. So it doesn't matter what they try or what they do. But this is the thing. They're trying to make it a bad thing. They're trying to make it taboo. And they're trying to, say that we can't even support our own president in public.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is where we have to draw the line here. And I think we are. I think we're doing it. And, Trump's Free Speech Act and all this kind of stuff, he's kind of going that way to mitigate the censorship. Mm-hmm. The entertainment industry is just absolutely oxygen wasting, whatevers. I think people really need to support more conservative media, more conservative filmmaking, more, I think Hollywood is a dying thing. It's a dying industry. We're going to digital production now with all the virtual digital studios and all that kind of stuff. Independents are just working for these digital studios. They're just churning out projects left and right. So I think there needs to be kind of an upsurge in conservative media that actually makes really good quality stuff. And, there's got to be a source to kind of get that funded for these brilliant filmmakers and these brilliant young people that are coming out of school, as journalists and filmmakers and even musicians and all that kind of stuff that are just not getting supported because of their political ideology. And I think it's really, really a shame. So I think if we see that and we give them a run for their money in that regard, I think then, that would really be a good tack to take. But again, we don't say that Trump's not doing anything about the Muslim invasion, because I don't believe that. Because knowing Trump the way we know Trump, every single time he has to hear the name Omar, he has to react in the same way that I do. And everybody knows how I react when I see her face.
Well, and that's another thing that gets me too. I don't know where these women came from. I watched.
They were placed like AOC.
Well, great. But apparently they still have to go through the whole political process and get voted in.
Right, by the Dearbornistans, and who knows? We know so much about them busing people to different polls in the same district. We know that they're paid voters. We know that they used fake IDs. We know that they committed voter fraud in 2016. We know this.
Right, but AOC isn't a Muslim.
It doesn't matter. She didn't need to be. She, her opponent just, for whatever reason, they got them all juiced up about what she was offering, and that was it. And that's, like I said, socialism's their wild card. And they have a multimillionaire in Bernie Sanders to help facilitate that, even though he's like, I can't even listen to that accent. I just want to, shoot myself. But it's horrible to listen to Bernie for more than a minute and a half with that accent. It just drives me crazy. Who does he remind you of? He reminds you of a Boston Archie Bunker. He really does. Anyway, so she had that backing. She had the same platform as him, so they saw that opportunity. And that's why she won, because New York is just insane now.
Well, I won't argue with you there.
I mean, we moved out. I moved out over, when did I move out? 2003. So I was out before it was getting crazy. Well, when there was a call to prayer on the streets post 9/11, and 6 generations of my family served this country, and I had to sit there and think about these returning vets from the desert, from fighting them, coming home, laying in their bed in the morning, hearing the call to prayer and thinking they're still there. And I couldn't handle that.
That's not acceptable at all to me.
No, it's not in New York City, but not anywhere in this country, but in New York City especially. What is wrong with people? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
But that, again, I chalk it up to no structural foundation at home, no idea of the concept of duty, period. And duty, if it doesn't come before desire, you get nowhere. And they have no concept in that. They're emotionally reactive, purely emotionally reactive. And look at me, and where's my peace, and where's my safe space, and, you know, why don't I get to feel this? And they don't see that they self-perpetuate their own anxiety and their own insecurity by being that way.
Well, let's move on now, getting back to the Muslim thing here.
Sure.
Ilhan Omar and the Minnesota National Guard.
Yes, I did want you to speak on this, yes, because this blew my bloody mind. Yes, go ahead. This is yours. This is your baby. You told me about it. You run with it.
My baby. Well, imagine my surprise as I flick the Twitter feed. What should my eyes upon fall to?
What?
And Ilhan Omar in the cockpit of a military jet getting a tour of not only the jet and its weapon capabilities. Somebody even made the comment, gee, did the sergeant happen to tell you how many of your people this can kill?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is, again, you have to sit there and say that from her perspective, she can't not know that we know she knows.
I agree. I tell her every day on Twitter.
The equipment that she's touring and learning about and taking photos of for Ashid al-Rahmani or whoever the hell.
Right.
Every one of these pieces of equipment is used to kill Muslims because we're at war with Muslims.
Right, so which makes them all enemy combatants. They shouldn't be here, period.
Right, and not only should they not be in this country,
They
and I would
certainly shouldn't
submit
sit
that
in my
if they
government.
are, they should be in internment camps at the very least. I would vote for a complete ejection from the game if it was up to me, but you know, we did it to the Japanese, and after the war, the Japanese rebuilt.
Different culture. Completely and totally different
Absolutely.
culture. What did I say about Asian Americans? That everybody could learn from the Asian Americans because they contribute to this nation. They're so undervalued in their contributions to this nation that when they move here to America and they become citizens or they become naturalized or their status becomes adjusted in any way positive towards America, they run with that stuff.
Right.
They are patriotic to the core. They would fight for America. They want to see her succeed because then they succeed. They understand this.
But fast forward to 2019, and not only do we not put our enemies in an internment camp, not only do we not eject them from the country immediately and without any delay whatsoever.
FTO-EO.
We put them in Congress.
Yes, well, that's what the FTO was for. The EO that designated the foreign terrorist organizations and any association with them. Muslim Brotherhood was designated a foreign terrorist organization, which every Muslim in here that's
Okay, but we
trouble,
already have video of Omar talking about her time with Hamas.
We
and
were-
Hamas is
I
on the
know.
list.
I
So
know.
that right there, see you later.
Well, that's because of the resistance from Pelosi and Schumer and the other entrenched deep state Democrats in
Well.
the House. They're protected. They were, like I said, she didn't just come up in a struggle as, you know, this little Somali refugee girl that loves America and
No,
wants
she
to serve
probably was
America.
holding an AK shooting it at our troops in 93, if you want to know the truth.
Agreed. She was chosen and she was placed where she is for a specific purpose. As Rashida Tlaib, as whoever that dude is, that whatever dude, his mayor somewhere, someplace. I'd love to see what his district looks like now. And of course, you know, that's the plan. So
Yeah, but on my side of the thing here and you know, doing my limited thinking as opposed to the great maestro, these aren't good moves here.
okay, they're not good moves, but you cannot make a move that's going to jeopardize all your other moves.
Okay,
All right, it's a strategy.
I get that.
It's like I
but I
said.
don't see the strategy.
I obviously I don't see all the strategy, but I have an outline and a sketch idea of the strategy because I know what I'd do in the situation, and knowing that how many pieces there are. There's
You know what it's like? I'll tell you what it's like. It's like Russia launching nuclear missiles, and they're in our airspace now, and they tell the president, You know what the president says? It's okay. Maybe they won't go off. That's what it is. Because we all know. We know. There's no guesswork here. There's no peace and love religion.
Yeah, but that's where you're wrong.
We know.
Look, what did I say when Omar got in? I said, pay attention, because pretty soon we're going to have a full Congress, everyone in attendance, and she's going to strap on a bomb vest and just blow all of Congress to high hell. And then I had to stop, and that was my emotions talking. And then I said, well, why should she? She is in the perfect position to gather as much intel as possible for life, as long as she pretends to be good. She screwed that up herself by being so mouthy, frankly.
And thanks to Hillary, she can use public email servers. But
there is that too. But you know what I'm saying? So she's not going to jeopardize that by doing anything stupid. None of them are.
Well, I don't know. But what I do know is that Donald Trump is going to drain the swamp.
Right.
Since he came into office, the swamp is getting bigger.
Okay, how slowly do clogged drains drain?
Depends on what you use.
They still take a while to drain. Even if they're clean and go right away, they still have to circle the drain for a while. It takes a while.
Okay.
All right. And now, this is the equivalent of when we make a move, their counter move is to pour more water into the bowl, and it takes longer to drain. They're blocking, and there's counter moves, and this is what's going on.
Okay.
Look, you're in power for however many long, right? You realize that if you relinquish that power, you are then unprotected, and every crappy thing that you have ever done is out there for all and sundry. You are going to fight tooth and nail. You're going to do whatever it takes to prevent that from happening. Now, think about that on a global scale with the most wealthy families ever existing, and every single corporate entity and big institution, including, we're talking about governments and, military and all of this stuff. The military industrial complex and all of that we've heard about for so very long. So it's honestly, when you think about it like that, and again, if any of it's true, all of it's true, what Trump has signed on to do has got to be the most remarkable thing in all of history.
Okay.
When you think about it like that. And if he is confident, because knowing Trump as we do, he wouldn't have signed on unless he was sure he could win.
He's said it many times for the last 30 days.
Right. And he certainly wouldn't have put his family through all that and everything if he wasn't sure too.
Right.
But again, he's a prime example of duty before desire. And having that internal integrity. Why? Because he grew up in that era where that is what it was about. And we are grateful to be here in this country instead of where we could have been and living like we could have lived.
Yeah.
And we're going to honor that. And that's how he was raised, so that's what he did. So, there's no doubt in my mind, like I said, that we're not going to succeed. It's just a matter of us having to be patient, supporting each other, not fighting with each other, and doing all that kind of stuff. Understand each other's frustrations. It's tough. And we're still all living our daily lives with all our own daily stresses and all that kind of stuff, too. So it's hard. I know. It's hard.
All right. Well, while we're moving on and dealing with our daily stresses and daily lives, can you tell me what a rhino is?
Yes. That is a Republican in name only. And so my question that I wanted to discuss was really, how dangerous are they? And my answer is as dangerous as the enemy. Because they are. They're just a faux enemy. Because maybe they're even a little bit worse. Because to those that don't really know their true alliance and allegiance, it could jeopardize things too. So I think they're even more dangerous, honestly, than, the people that are outright in opposition.
Being dangerous, yeah.
Right. Well, and you're right, exactly. So, yeah. So I think that's definitely something we have to look out for. And, God, it's daily. And, we have a list of who we think are patriots and who we think are evil and who we think are just traitors or pawns or whoever's this. And, I kind of go by my gut feeling, too. Because I have this thing where I don't care if it's just a picture that I see on the screen. All I got to do, I can see behind somebody's eyes. You can just tell. They get, like, the people that aren't truthful and honest and upright. They have this glaze that goes on behind their eyes, even in photos. You know, they just
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
They can't make that internal integrity shine out through their eyes, right?
No.
So you could just kind of tell. And so there's some that I don't know. Remember, disinformation is key, and also that, again, it's part of the machination, and that's another reason why we couldn't possibly know anything, because some people that we might think are you know, on our side and upstanding, you know, maybe, you know, the people that are handling this drainage are aware that they're not, but they're certainly not going to let it be known that they know that they're not. Right?
Well, okay.
So
but
then-
again, you know, to me, that whole that whole thing is just like kind of the perfect write-in to just carry on the story, right?
Well, again, that's another reason why we're told to grab the popcorn and enjoy the show. I mean, there's some theories out there that this is
I don't
all
know about
happened
I don't
already.
know about you, but I'm not enjoying this.
I know. Well, see, that was the point of why I'm so glad that these were the two, you know, most desired to be talked about
Yeah.
issues on the
Yeah.
poll, because to me, I feel your frustration. We are experiencing and living that frustration with you too. You know, I mean, we're living it just like you guys, and it's hard, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm in a position now where my son is about to start school in September, and
Oh, good. He will learn about the Quran.
oh yeah, there is that too. See now. Lots of stories I've been hearing on the internet about that sort of thing. And I'm very grateful that I live in North Carolina, where Sharia law has been officially and
Banned.
legally banned here, because I think they probably did that just for me, because that would just be a really bad scene here if I were to go to school and find out that Tristan's curriculum consisted of, you know, all of the finer virtues of Islam, you know. So, yeah. It would be, you know, a la rebar. That's what it would be. So, just saying. Yes, I talk like I tweet.
Well, you know, bottom line here, I don't care what you say.
But that's another thing. We saw the picture the other day of these beautiful little blonde American girls with their faces in a prayer mat in what looked to be a mosque. And I'm like, hello, parents, what? But again, I submit either there's no dads in the home, or there are two parents and they both work and nobody pays attention to these kids anyway.
Right.
And they're perfect. They're perfect blank sheets of paper for,
Well,
we'll accept you. Come be with me.
Okay, and I hear and understand what you're saying, but then my next question goes to, okay, well, I'm an average guy. I'm sure there's a lot of average guys and girls out there who are school teachers. I'm sure they're American and patriotic and all the rest of it. Why are we not hearing from teachers about...
I will tell you why. And
Oh.
Today on the tweet, I saw why. Now, it wasn't about Muslims, because God forbid nobody would speak out against Muslims, actually. Except
I do. I'm going through my 4th Twitter account.
I'm telling you, I do too. You know, I do. I tag them all in it, you know. What did I call Omar today?
Never mind. Stay on point.
Okay. It's on my feed. But today, there was a teacher in Texas, and she wrote, while she tweeted Trump, she thought she was DMing him.
Directing, yeah.
And she actually was doing a public tweet, and there were several in the series, and it was begging Trump to get the illegals out of her school. She was a
Okay, now,
school
whoa,
teacher.
stop the bus. Illegals, that infers to me Mexicans.
Right. Well, hold the bus, because we know that there's a great deal of Bangladeshis and Pakistanis, and I said this ages ago. I said, any that think they can pass as a Southern American are going to try and come in the southern border and pass as Mexican. Or, you know, Latin American, whatever the case
What are
may
you
be.
doing? I'm here to pick your peaches.
Hey, they could just not say anything. You know, no habla inglés. You know, that's all they got to say.
Well,
Right? So anyway, and it doesn't really matter when you're swimming across the Rio Grande, and, you know, nobody's going to be like, hey, you, where are you from? You know. But anyway, so she tweets, and please get the illegals out of our country. And God bless this woman. She puts her phone number, her cell phone number out there on the Twitter.
did you call her?
No, I did not, because by that time the poor woman was shut down and ostracized. She's probably being dragged through the streets behind, you know, somebody's truck in Texas, because all the other teachers in the school, all the parents in the school flipped out. They're going to crucify this poor teacher for telling the truth. She just wants her district's children, her registered American citizen children, to have a quality education that is being diluted by the deluge of illegal children. Okay, look, I'm going to say this here once, and I'm never going to say this again. Everybody knows me. I love children. I love all children.
So does Joe Biden. Ba-doom-cha!
That was good. We need to get the drum thing again. So it doesn't matter. I could never, I don't care. You know, that child looks at me and it's tough. It's just a really tough call. I would never deny a child anyone. I don't care who you are. This is me. I used to be a first responder too. So if you're lying in the street bleeding, it's going to be a struggle for me not to help you. Right? I'm absolutely going to be.
No, it's going to be a struggle for her not to fall to the ground on her knees, crying and screaming, and I'll help you.
That's only if it's my son. When Tristan fell down the stairs and cracked his skull and got 5 staples, I was a mess. He's like, you used to be.
Okay, well, my point originally was about the teachers, and I would think there would be more than one, and I think it would be a lot earlier than 2019 that you would hear this.
Well, my point was, I can understand the emotional reaction of the other teachers and the parents, because we do have it legally mandated in this country that if you're not a legal citizen of America as a child, you still are entitled to an education. So you don't have to be a legal citizen of this country if you're under 18 to go to school. Why do you think all the dreamers got education? So
okay, but my point isn't about multicultural children coming to a school. My point is about curriculums changing, the teaching of Islam in schools.
Yes. But
that doesn't come from...
I'm answering your question.
Well...
I'm answering your question. The question you had posed is, why aren't other teachers in uprising about the new Muslim addition to the curriculum? And I'm telling you why. It's because this teacher had an actual valid, hey, we're getting deluged by illegal children, and our children are not getting the education that they are entitled to and that they deserve and that they expected before the deluge of the illegal children.
Right.
She's being crucified by the teachers, the parents, her own school district, her own community, the community that she's right. So how do you expect, God forbid, teachers to speak out against the introduction of an Islam curriculum?
Okay, well, how much time out of Donald Trump's day would it take to fix the education system?
That's not his job, Ed.
Oh, my goodness, yes, it is. Do you know that's part of his platform for getting elected?
Yeah, and he hired a secretary of education to handle that.
And?
Whatever. Bigger fish.
No, never mind. Bigger fish.
It's not about education. First of all, states, there is a federal curriculum, which thankfully is phasing out, and that was the core thing, the Common Core thing. But I believe that, individual school districts can decide what their curriculum is involved in, because regionally things are different. So if you're in the southeastern United States, like down here, they might teach the Civil War in a different way than they do in New Hampshire or in California.
Still teach the Civil War.
Well, they don't probably anymore. Something else today, that YouTube is now demonetizing and banning channels that promote history topics and history documentaries if they have World War II and Nazi stuff in it.
Yeah.
It's history, people.
Yeah.
So again, and the thing that bothers me the most is your average liberal, because this wasn't like this prior to 2016. It just wasn't.
No.
Right. So what that tells me is it's a collective hysteria that is being promoted and exacerbated and pushed on these people, or they're being manipulated and frenzied because we have these brilliant strategists that are tapping into their most fragile psychological makeup, and that's triggering them. That's where the term came from. And it's an overwhelming success for them, so they think, because they have it in their delusional minds that they are the majority and that they are going to win, and that human nature isn't going to prevail over ideology. And they're wrong. So we already know identity politics failed.
Yeah.
So that's why there's such a multitude of 2020 Democratic candidates, because they are trying to cover all the bases. You know, they're throwing everything at the wall and hoping one of them sticks. And it might be Eric Swalwell with all his drool and stuff. Who knows?
No.
But
No, not even 1%.
Kidding. The drool might stick. None of them have a chance.
No.
None.
No.
There is not one. Bernie might get 1.8%.
Well,
of
and
the
see,
vote
this kind
time.
of brings me back to the beginning of the show, and I said, you know, I learned at 11 years old that politicians lie. Here's the question of the day. If politicians are so used to lying, why aren't any of the, like, you can't tell me that none of these 22 Democratic hopefuls for 2020, none of them have a couple of brain cells that can't go, well, my numbers really suck. Everybody in my party's numbers really suck. Joe Biden is doing the best, and he really sucks. Maybe I should change my strategy.
There isn't any
Maybe
strategy.
I
It's
should
a formula.
maybe I should take it. It's going across the floor, but I mean, we go across the floor in Congress every day. There's Republicans voting on Democratic initiatives, the Democrats voting on Republican initiatives. It's cost of doing business, whatever backdoor deals are the reasons for the deals, whatever. If I'm sitting here running for president as a Democrat, I'll tell you the first thing I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reassess my strategy to conform more to right and traditional ideals within the United States, because I know that sells.
Okay, two reasons why that's not going to work. A, hi, Tim Apple. I'm your employee. And guess what? Now I'm going to start doing things the Microsoft way. The Democrats aren't going to have it. They're just not going to have it because they have an agenda. The party has an agenda.
Sure, and overall, the Democrats would want their guy or girl in the Oval Office, right?
I see what you're saying, that whoever the Democratic candidate is, well, they've done that by putting veterans in the presidential nomination race. Women. You know, it's that identity politics thing again. And
yeah, this will work.
Right, exactly. But again, the Democratic Party's entire optics are just in the toilet, full stop. I mean, you have even, you know, you have independents, you have liberals, you have libertarians, you have all of these potential Democratic voters who are watching this train wreck every day that is the Democratic Party. And they're like, I'm just staying home on Election Day. And that's it. They're not even going to get into the fray because it's just not worth it. There's just no one.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why. And two, voters, especially conservative voters, and you know I tend to stay away from parties. You know, yes, I'm a registered Republican, but I'm a conservative patriot. And that was part of the reason why I voted for Obama. I hate to say it because I was never a party tower. I was never a party line tower. I voted for whoever I thought was best for the country because that's what's important, right? So, yeah. Well, anyway.
And the job in hand is extremely unique and nothing else exists like it. So,
right, exactly.
You
can't
want
just
the
be
best
like,
person for the job. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Meritocracy, right?
There you go.
Okay, no participation ribbons here. So, you know, there's no reason for them to adopt a conservative attitude when their party is anti everything, because they sit there and they say the Republicans are evil. They're you know, bigots and racists and xenophobes, and they want to, you know, sterilize you, and they want, you know, they don't want you to do this, and they don't want you to do this, and you know, all these things like that. You know, they're
everything that Dinesh D'Souza says.
Right, exactly. That's what the Dems do, right?
Yeah.
But they say that we do, and again, we already know that's a tactic.
Right.
It's a twisted, perverted a model of make them think you're strong where you're weak and where you're weak when you're strong. That kind of thing. It's a perverted twist on that strategy.
Right.
So, and unfortunately, it works because the average voter, until 2018 anyway, had no idea that the mainstream media lied to them, because we've expected that journalists with their integrity was up there with judges. And
Sure.
we all know what judges do now.
Yeah.
Too. Not that we didn't anyway. Like we did. See,
Well,
the
that's
thing.
another thing too. When you talk about the media, that's when I noticed the media turn. That's when I noticed the media almost overnight
Right.
change. It was right when Obama got elected.
Oh, really? See, I didn't notice it until Trump got elected.
No, I saw it before then.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to explore that at some point with you, though.
Well,
but
maybe
no,
another
I
show,
didn't
yeah.
notice it. But it was almost overnight. And again, that's just another future proves past. When you look back, look, hindsight's 2020. We all know this.
Yeah.
So when we look back and see how things, played out, it was quite obvious that it was planned that way, and he was placed there, and that's just the way. To further an agenda as yet unknown.
Well, and then the next logical question to my mind is who would have the power to place the
Right,
president
and
of the
we
United States?
already know who
that's
that
what?
is. It is an unholy trinity between the Rothschilds, the Vatican. There's 3 arms to owning power:
Yeah.
the military, the financial world, and religion. You get those 3 together, and they're unstoppable. And they have been since inception. They have fed off of each other in a symbiotic relationship, a parasitic relationship. Let me rephrase that. And they have sucked the world dry, and they've created all this chaos. And we know in the manifestos of how to rule the world and control the world, it's to keep the people in chaos, keep them divided, keep them fighting each other, keep them suspicious of each other.
And thanks to the internet, keep them busy.
Well, there is that as well, right?
People on New York City sidewalks, they don't even look where they're going anymore. They're always in their phones.
Well-
They're tweeting, they're texting, they're doing their thing,
I hear you.
you know.
But again, that's just a byproduct. I think that's just a byproduct. And then all of these other, health maladies and all of these dysphoric disorders, let's just say
made
that
up.
and leave that there. That's another thing. This is another tactic. Who do you think is prodding all of this pride stuff and all of that kind of thing? It's just another arm. It's just another attack in their simultaneous attacks. They're throwing everything but the kitchen sink at our beliefs.
And I guess it's time to take a look at the shareholders of the hormone companies.
Oh, well, I guess that wouldn't hurt either.
No.
But that's actually, it used to be a lot more difficult. You used to have psychological counseling. You used to have medical evaluations.
Oh, not now.
Teenagers can go and buy it. They can
Yep.
go to a clinic and they can get hormones
Yep.
and change their gender.
Absolutely.
And but again, it's just another arm of that whole thing, of that multi-attack strategy. So, and we have to know this, and we cannot expect one administration and a handful of honest, patriotic, high-level officials to put out every fire simultaneously.
Well, and as is every war room, it's our job to come up with a plan.
Right.
And we're going to use you. Yes, we are going to use you. We're going to have guest callers calling us in, helping us out.
That's
we're going
right.
to work this out together.
Yeah, we will. We definitely are. We're going to be a
Together.
very inclusive kind of show. Like I said, you found a place here. I want to know what your concerns are. I want to know what you're talking about, what you're worried about, what you think is going on. If you figured something out that you don't think somebody else has figured out, I want to know these things. Let's powwow.
Unless you're on hormone treatment.
Right. We won't invite Elizabeth Warren if we powwow, I promise. And, we're going to do that. So I'm going to take this opportunity now, actually. So those were the 2 biggest poll winners, and then we had another category.
Yeah.
And I just want to give a couple shout outs to the honorable mentions, to the ones that chose other, that didn't make the segment cut here. But I've got at PCarb211, he wanted to talk about how Dems are just refusing to fix the immigration issue.
Absolutely.
That they're just completely ignoring it, that they're cognitive dissonance or just, flat out lie in denial. And I submit, well, again, we already know because immigrants equal votes, but because they have other bigger fish to fry now too. Just like as soon as they lost on the Dreamer Act and all that and DACA, that was it. We didn't hear about that again, And as soon as Trump started winning on the wall and getting his immigration promise, fulfilled, they stopped bitching so much about that.
Right.
Right? And they moved on to other things, and then it was all the Mueller investigation, and it's Mueller time and all that kind of stuff. And that's another can of worms, too. I want everybody to tweet me when you get a chance and tell me what you think about Mueller. Friend, foe, honest, incompetent, traitor, mole, I don't know.
Irrelevant.
Well, yeah, irrelevant once the IG report comes out, absolutely.
Well, it's an irrelevant time waster.
But wait a second, because now they have been floating the idea of prosecuting Mueller as actually being a co-conspirator in this coup and, you know, doing all this kind of stuff, which seems reasonable to me.
Could be, except Trump appointed him.
Well, Trump has to. You have to understand something. This is something.
Trump could go to Shreveport, Louisiana, and take some man off the street and appoint him.
No, he cannot.
To investigate.
This is something we all need to very much understand here. Trump isn't, a king. He's not a monarch. He doesn't sit, and even monarchs don't anymore when they have parliaments. They're just, what do you call them? Figureheads. That's it.
Well, Obama brought in, I don't know how many cabinet that were Muslims and completely not qualified for the jobs. He pulled them off the street.
He had the blessing of the Democratic Party and the rhinos in Congress who were too afraid because of identity politics to speak out against the first black president. That's all that was. That's it. Trump doesn't have that blessing. He doesn't have the ability to do that. Even the ones that are legitimate to be appointed, he gets pushed back on, and we know this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is part of the reason that that's not occurring. So,
well, and the other thing is too about the Democrats blocking everything to do with fixing immigration. I mean, this you got to understand that there's a history with all these people. All these people have worked together for decades.
Right. Well, there's
sadly.
all the El Chapo money too, and keeping those
and this
drug
is the
money
thing.
open.
There's all those connections there. There's the long-standing fights back and forth. I mean, the Pelosi today was still bitter about the Dreamers. They've even written up other bills using the word Dreamers in the bills and getting that put through and being all proud of that. Of course, it has nothing to do with the original, and all of the infighting, all these personal little things back and forth with all these people. That's what really I think is holding the majority of everything up.
Well, there is too, and now you have the limelight being stolen by Omar and Tlaib, and that idiot AOC, who's just an idiot.
And the icing on the cake is we hate Trump, so F you.
Right, exactly, and it doesn't matter. And this is the thing that really, again, not to beat a dead horse, but that bothers me the most because I don't care what your situation is. If you live here and you were born here and you're an American. How can you not see how obvious it is that they're trying to do what they're trying to do? Like, they will not make one decision that's good for the country if it does in any way improve Trump's optics. They just won't do it.
Yeah.
And how can anybody see that and not see it for what it is utterly beyond me.
And then they blame him for shutting down the government. Meanwhile, while it's open and they're taking a paycheck, they're doing nothing, which is essentially shutting down the government.
I was very proud of him because I rewatched that whole screaming match about the government shutdown and when it occurred between Schumer and Pelosi and he on the television. And at one point, he does what I do. What do I do? Chuck was like, don't blame us for shutting down the government. It was your decision again. And Trump's like, yep, okay, I'll own it. I was like, yeah. And then Chuck had to shut up because what do you say to that?
Right.
So that's what I say. You call me a racist. I'm like, yep, okay, I'll own that. If it means shutting you up and getting you out of my country, okay, I can live with that. So they don't really have a response to that. It kind of shuts them down right away. So so that's our just little tidbit there on that issue, and maybe we'll go into it more fully on another show.
Yeah. Well, in closing too, I would also throw out there some food for thought that. And it's been said for decades by many, many people long before me. The actual bipartisan system, the Senate, the Congress, the different levels of the functioning
they're meant for oversight,
and pieces of our government.
They're meant to oversee each other.
Well, and it's great. They're all overseeing everything, but
Checks
apparently don't know what the other hand is doing all the time.
Well,
but
none of the time.
Whatever. The bottom line is, the entire system is flawed. It seems to me that it would be pretty straightforward and logical for, some certain people somewhere to sit down and develop a new system of government.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there, and I'm going to disagree. I have utter and 1,000 complete faith in our founding fathers and the system they developed. The problem isn't with the system. The problem is with no term limits. Because when you sit in a position for longer than what a term should be, then that is going to become a corruptible position, because then you're going to get entrenched and you're going to feel comfortable and you're going to feel untouchable. You're going to feel above that position.
Well, I would submit to you, as you're always talking about, that's human nature.
Right, which is why we need term limits. So if they were
the manager of the subway down the street, he gets pretty full of himself too, because he's got 8 high school kids as employees that he's overlord over.
Right, exactly. So why do you think the president has term limits? That's the reason. So to expect that the lower offices, the lower branches below the executive branch, don't have term limits is just insane.
Right.
And it was the one, as far as I can tell, it was the one oversight.
Okay.
That our founding fathers left out. That was it. So, but that's what amendments are for. And I think that needs to be severely considered. Once we drain the swamp, I think that needs to be done. And I've
good
said
luck,
it
because
too.
as so many Americans have said to me over the years, don't you even think about it. As soon as I said, well, it was about the Second Amendment when I was having this conversation with this fine gentleman one day. And I said, what's the problem here? Like, if the majority of the country doesn't want the Second Amendment, they just vote it away, or goes. There's a process stop.
Yeah, no.
There's a process to change that. There is.
Nobody
It's an
changed
amendment.
that.
It was changed originally from something else. It was amended.
It's an amendment to the Bill of Rights, our inalienable rights.
Right, but disclosure's not here yet.
It's not like changing something else. Okay, yeah, right. Very funny.
But you get my point. So in the grand scheme of the entire
I hope
Constitution,
you're using the Second Amendment as an example, because nobody's touching that. Not while I breathe.
Hey, I'm not Piers Morgan here.
I'm just saying, you could have chosen a different amendment.
Get out of here. Okay, the first. Even more important, if you ask me.
Okay, well, the second ensures the first.
Well, so they say. That's the hype. That's on the NRA brochure.
Don't believe the hype. Okay.
But
gotcha.
what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, or 17. My point is, in the conversation, is that they are amendments. They can be changed. It's contractual tort law. It gets done all the time for anybody else.
So it the U.S. Constitution, though. That's a little that's serious.
Then why
stuff.
is there a process for it? There is a written process for it, actually written by the Founding Fathers. So why would they do that if they didn't intend for things down the road to change, because things change?
Okay, I'll tell you why. Because it's a slippery damn slope. Mm-hmm. And especially with the nutters that we have now, it would be devastating.
Could be
to this nation.
But as I understand it, the process for actually having an amendment changed or altered in any way is extremely arduous, painstaking, very expensive.
And sure, the Democrats wouldn't go through that process while they lunch and travel.
They don't have that long of an attention span. You look at the Democratic Party 6 months ago, what they were on about, and 6 months later now, completely different.
Guess who does it?
Who does it?
Those just graduating law school that work for them. That's who does it.
And how good are they? It's
irrelevant how good they are. Again,
well, I'll take OJ's lawyers any day.
The system's rigged. The system is rigged anyway. It's an illusory system. It's an illusory system. It's designed to promote the public. No, it's designed. That's a good point, but I'll put it.
It's the Rothschilds, damn it.
It is, but I'll put it this way: it's designed to promote a sense of security amongst the people, but allow for chaos at will of those true puppet masters of the system. How's that?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
see, good. That's why I'm a writer.
Good parting thought. Yeah.
Okay, so again, though, term limits. We need them. That has to be something that's thrown in once all this is said and done.
Yeah, but that's something that's not new. They were saying that in the 1950s.
Right, and that's all wonderful. And that's because we knew we had inklings of all this kind of stuff going on. Exactly. Yeah. But now, once we actually get this out and we prove it and all is said and done, when the histories are written, then we'll have no objection to it because we'll have proof of
We'll
what's
have had
occurred.
time to absorb the full story and be able to move forward, right?
Right, exactly. See,
All right,
that's-
folks, so look for Obama and Hillary to get hung in 70 years.
Listen, that's something else you have to take into consideration. Just because the majority of conservatives, by nature, conservatives conserve and we preserve and we are cautious and pragmatic and we think and we evaluate. And this is the nature of how we are. We're not emotionally reactive as a whole, generally, right? So we do these things, but there is millions of other Americans out there that don't do that. And they're not bad people.
No.
They're just not operating at that level.
Right.
So we have to give them time. We have to give them time to process. There has to be a slow dissemination of the truth because it would be overwhelming and it would be detrimental to otherwise good people. And that cannot be discounted. Sorry, I'm not backing off on that one.
Roswell, 1947, 73 years ago.
Okay, well, yep, that leads me to my second shout out.
That's right.
Sapphire Soul 2 tweeted that it would be great to discuss whether or not the government is ever going to talk about UFOs and whether disclosure is imminent.
But now the interesting thing there is kind of the same thing.
It's all the
It's
same
like
thing.
another TV series. This one is really fun. Actually, it's you're in my kind of hobby thing. We're into the UFO thing.
Right.
But isn't it interesting that, with the realistic people, the people with their feet well grounded and have a sense of something, they're all into politics. Well, it's all the crazies into the UFOs. Well, check
that
this
was
out.
a
There's
story.
the deep state for the politician fancied, right? But then there's the UFO conspiracy for the UFO nut jobs. And the UFO conspiracy, very similarly, and you'll agree to this because, you're a storyteller, you're all into stories. This is the same kind of thing. Well, there's this conspiracy, you see, and it goes back way hundreds of thousands of years ago. Right?
Well, okay,
And-
we can go. We're not going to debate the merits of
And the
Anunnaki
chemtrails and the
and-
reptilians and they're among us. Yeah, come on. Really?
Absolutely, but we're going to not do that here because obviously it's a rabbit hole that's even as deep as.
But what I'm saying is that the similarities of the two completely separate stories
Do
are
you know? Okay, I'm
very
going to put
similar.
this out here right now. You know what that does for me? It proves them both.
Dun dun dun.
Because if they were manufactured
Mm-hmm.
and there was no truth, and remember, there's a grain of truth in everything because, art imitates life. Life doesn't imitate art. So if they were completely manufactured by two separate entities for two separate purposes,
Right.
they wouldn't be so similar. They wouldn't be so interchangeable. What that tells me is that there is a high entity organizational formula that they use for all these things that they want to keep secret and that they want to keep buried. Again,
Okay.
you can't. There really shouldn't be a question of whether or not there is something that is non-terrestrial messing around out in the atmosphere because people see it every day. They see it every day. We've had mass sightings. We've had just the Air Force and all of the new protocols now for pilots reporting sightings and all that kind of stuff. Now the government's actually coming out and admitting stuff, which is why the question of, hey, let's discuss, are they ever going to have disclosure? And it would be awfully presumptuous of us to think that we're the only intelligent life in the entire universe. And don't get me crazy, Maisie, because then I can go into my parallel universe theories and, don't even talk to me about the Mandela effect because we can have a whole show on the Mandela effect, right?
We had it today.
Well, we did. Nancy Pelosi said the guy got run over by the tank in Tiananmen Square.
Which is what we remember.
My husband and I remember that. We were kids when that occurred. How old were we?
Apparently that didn't happen.
But apparently there is an entire swath of people around the world that swear the tank didn't run him over.
Nope.
I want to hear what you have to think about that. So tweet me about that. Tiananmen Square, did they run him over or did they not run him over?
Remember to like and subscribe.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I definitely do want to hear that, though. I want to see how many people remember him being run over by the tank. And
Yeah.
how many think that, no, he wasn't run over. He was fine and he's living somewhere in China and everything's all cool.
San Francisco, I think, now.
But that's part of the reason. But there's so many things. Again, I'm not saying that you have to believe what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you have to do that. But I'm just telling you what my spidey senses tell me.
Yeah.
That if one of these things is true, they are all true. And that's what I think. And that's what I believe.
Mind blown.
Right. And yes, disclosure is imminent because it's got to be. I mean, there's not going to be a saucer landing on the White House lawn. There might be, but I don't think so. And even then, you'd have your naysayers. So, but yes, so thanks to Sapphire Toll 2 and PCARB 211 for those two others I'm happy to discuss. And as always, tweet and let me know what you want to talk about next time. It would be great.
And you, of course, can do that. If you want to get a hold of us, you can certainly do it following us on Twitter. For the new show, of course, brand new spanking new Twitter account at WarRoom 2019. You can get that there. Also, if you want to tweet Kitty directly, of course, you can get her at Real Fierce Kitty. And, of course, yours truly, Crashman, at Unreal CJT.
All right. So if you want more, then subscribe to our exclusive full broadcasts and commercial-free programming on Patreon. We're going to drop new shows every Thursday and every Sunday. Media is what we do, and with your support, we can do more of it than ever before, with the value it was intended to provide, not the fake news kind of thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Make no mistake, Patriots, we are at war. The enemy's gone beyond the gates and is at our front door, and this is it. This is the time. This is our last stand. We're going to make it. And that's what we're going to do.
That's right. And we want to also thank you to the great team here at On Air Media and On Air Radio, America's Talk Radio. Don't forget you can follow them at On Air Media US and On Air Radio US.
Have a great night.
Seconds. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. 5 seconds.